My wife broke up with me and went on vacation with her work partner, but she had no idea what would happen next. She told me she needed space. I didn't realize space came with beachfront cocktails and a hotel room shared with her work partner. But what happened next? Yeah, she never saw it coming. My name's Kyle. I'm 38, from Tampa, Florida, and up until a few months ago, I thought I was in a solid marriage. My wife, Claire, and I had been together for 10 years, married for 6. We met at a wedding, not ours, hit it off instantly, and for a long time, I thought we were that forever kind of couple. You know, two people who still laughed at each other's bad jokes and sent goofy gifts during the workday. But for the last year or so, something felt off. Claire started working longer hours at her new job in marketing. I didn't question it at first, she'd always been ambitious, and her company had just landed a huge tech client. But then the late nights became overnights. Happy hour became work dinners. And one name kept coming up more and more, Ethan. Her work partner. She said he was harmless. Gay, maybe. Or married. Or just intense. The story changed every time. I let it go, because that's what you do when you trust someone, right? But then came the conversation I'll never forget. We were sitting at the kitchen table, 2 coffees between us, and she looked up with this weird calm in her eyes and said, "I think we need a break." I blinked. A break from what, exactly? She let out a sigh like she'd been rehearsing this. From us. I need space. Time to figure out who I am without the label of wife on my back all the time. I'm not leaving you, I'm just pressing pause. It wasn't a breakup, she said. Just a chance to breathe, think, reset. And like an idiot, I agreed. Because I loved her. Because I wanted to believe it wasn't over. That was on a Thursday. By Sunday, she was in Cabo with Ethan. How do I know? Because she accidentally posted it on her Instagram story. Yup. A boomerang of clinking margaritas. A blurry pic of the ocean. And then a mirror selfie in a resort suite. Just Claire in a sundress and Ethan in a towel. His arm around her waist. No tags. No captions. But clear as hell. She deleted it 20 minutes later. But I saw it. And so did someone else. Someone who changed everything. The minute I saw that photo, I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. My hands were shaking. My mouth went dry. You know how in movies, they do that ringing sound to show shock? That's real. I heard it. A loud, hollow buzz as my brain caught up with what I was seeing. My wife, who needed space, was in a hotel room, on a vacation we had planned together, with the man she swore was just a work partner. I stared at that story a dozen times before it disappeared. And just when I was trying to convince myself maybe I misunderstood it, my phone buzzed again. A DM. From someone I didn't know. Username, Riley Nosebust. Hey, this is random, but I saw your wife's story. I think you deserve to know Ethan is my boyfriend. Or, was. I froze. I messaged back immediately. What are you talking about? She responded fast. They've been seeing each other for months. I found texts. Hotel receipts. She told him she was working on her marriage and needed to wait before going public. I asked for proof. She sent screenshots. Dozens. Claire and Ethan, talking about their plans for Cabo. Claire telling him, he still thinks we're on a break lol. That lol hit harder than anything else. I sat there in our quiet kitchen, our houseplants wilting on the windowsill, her favorite mug still in the drying rack, and realized I wasn't on a break. I was being phased out. Like I was a beta version of her life and she'd finally downloaded the upgrade. But I didn't scream. I didn't rage post. I didn't text her some dramatic ultimatum. I did something better. Riley, the girlfriend, turned out to be the unexpected MVP of my healing arc. We talked for 3 hours that night. Not just about Claire and Ethan, but everything. About how you can sleep next to someone for years and never realize they've already left you in their mind. About what it feels like to catch someone in a lie so deep, it makes you question your own memory. And the best part? She still had access to Ethan's shared Google Calendar. Guess what was on it? Dinner reservations. Spa bookings. Their flight info. Claire's birthday plans. Everything. So while they were out sipping overpriced cocktails under the Mexican sunset, I was back home, making moves. I called our joint bank, froze the shared card, switched my direct deposit to my personal account, changed all the passwords to utilities she never paid for but always logged into. Then I called a lawyer. Not to be petty. To be prepared. Claire and I didn't have kids, but we did have property. A mortgage. A joint savings account we were building for a trip to Europe she once said would change everything. Turns out, what changed everything was a resort pool and Ethan's towel. But I wasn't just going to let it all go quietly. Not anymore. And then, the twist I didn't see coming, Claire came back early. 2 days before her vacation was supposed to end. She walked into our house like nothing had happened. Hair braided, skin sun-kissed, suitcase rolling behind her. She acted surprised to see me in the living room. "You're home," she said. I stared at her. "You didn't think I'd notice you posted your affair to Instagram?" Her face went white. For the first time, she looked like she didn't know what to say. But I did. "You wanted space," I said. "Now you've got all the space in the world." She didn't know it yet, but she'd come home to the beginning of the end. She stood there in the doorway, clutching the handle of her suitcase like she might run if she let go. "Kyle," she started, voice already dipped in that guilty softness. "It wasn't supposed to be like this." I laughed, actually laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out sharp and bitter, the sound of someone finally realizing the person they loved had no clue what they'd just set in motion. "What was it supposed to be, Claire?" I asked. "A vacation with your backup plan while your husband waited at home like an idiot?" Her lips tightened. She looked around the living room like maybe she could crawl inside a memory and pretend this was still the home we built together. But the energy was gone. I'd stripped it of her the minute she boarded that plane. "I needed clarity," she said. I didn't know what I wanted." I nodded. "Right. But you knew it wasn't me." She didn't deny it. Didn't even try. That was the moment I realized she hadn't come back to fix anything. She'd come back because she was scared. Scared the double life she'd been juggling had just collapsed and she had nowhere soft to land. "Well," I said, walking to the kitchen counter, "let me make this real simple for you." I slid a folder across the counter. Inside was the draft of our divorce agreement. My lawyer was fast, turns out infidelity makes people very cooperative. Claire stared at it like it was a death certificate. "You already talked to a lawyer," she said. "While you were at the spa," I replied. "Hope the hot stones helped." She didn't cry. That's what surprised me. She didn't scream or beg. She just folded. Sat on the barstool like her bones couldn't hold her up anymore. "Ethan's not who I thought he was," she whispered. I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you mean the part where he had a girlfriend and lied to both of us?" "Shocking." She winced. "You don't have to be cruel." I took a deep breath. "Claire, I was never cruel. I was constant. And you confused that for boring. You chose chaos because it made you feel alive, but now you're realizing that being chased doesn't mean being loved." She didn't say anything. And honestly, that was the most honest she'd ever been. The divorce moved fast. No kids. No real fight. She didn't contest the terms. Maybe guilt finally did what my love couldn't, got her to do the right thing. The house went to me. She moved in with a friend. Not Ethan, he ghosted her the second she told him I knew everything. Riley apparently read him the riot act and then walked, too. Funny how cheaters never expect the dominoes to fall that fast. Over the next few months, I rebuilt, piece by piece. Painted the walls. Replaced the couch she picked out. Got rid of the bar cart she insisted we keep even though we barely drank. I adopted a second dog, partly for company, partly because the first one seemed lonely, and partly because starting over deserved new energy. Claire texted me twice after the papers were signed. Once to say she was sorry. Once to say she missed me. I didn't respond to either. Because here's the thing she never understood: love isn't a vacation. You don't check in when it's exciting and check out when it's not. You stay. You work. You grow. She went looking for fireworks and forgot what it felt like to be safe. And me? I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even hurt. I'm clear. I was never the boring one. I was the steady one. The one who would have chosen her every day if she hadn't made damn sure I didn't have to. I used to think closure came in the form of some dramatic moment, yelling in the rain, a last-ditch apology, maybe even a tearful confession that the other person made a huge mistake and wanted to come home. But the truth is, closure looks a lot more ordinary. It looks like silence. It looks like peace. It looks like walking into your house on a Tuesday night, flipping on the lights, hearing your dog's paws on the floor, and knowing that no one's lying to you anymore. 3 months after the divorce, I ran into Claire at a grocery store. I was picking out coffee, and there she was by the produce section, holding a carton of strawberries like she was auditioning for a toothpaste commercial. Her hair was shorter. She looked tired, like someone who hadn't slept well in weeks. I almost walked the other way, but she spotted me before I could duck out. She smiled. Tentatively. "Kyle," she said, like my name still tasted strange in her mouth. I nodded. "Claire. We made small talk. It was awkward. Her eyes kept flicking down to my hands like she expected to see a ring or maybe hoped not to. I told her I was doing well. That I'd started hiking again, taking some weekend trips, finally visiting places we always talked about but never went. She said she was seeing a therapist. Working on herself. Good, I said. And I meant it. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. Are you seeing anyone? I smiled. Not seriously. But I'm open. She nodded slowly, like she wasn't sure if that stung more than she expected it to. Then she said something I'll never forget. I really thought I wanted more. But now that I've lost everything, I keep wondering if more just meant different. I looked at her. Not with anger. Not with longing. Just with clarity. You didn't lose everything, Claire, I said. You just lost someone who would have stayed through anything. And that's a kind of love you only get once. We left it there. No grand reconciliation. No promises of friendship. Just two people in the middle of a grocery store, finally understanding that some things break for good reasons. A year later, I met someone new. Her name's Emily. She works in photography and owns more flannel than any one person should. She laughs too loudly in movie theaters and refuses to let me win at Scrabble. But she's honest. Steady. Warm in all the ways I forgot I needed. One night, while we were cooking dinner, she asked me why I looked so thoughtful. I said, I used to think love had to be dramatic, full of tension and intensity. But now, I think it's supposed to feel like this. She smiled and handed me a piece of burnt garlic bread. No drama here, she said. Just carbs and commitment. So if you've ever been blindsided if someone told you you weren't enough, or walked out when things got quiet, let me tell you something. You didn't fail them. You outgrew them. You grew into someone who finally sees their own worth. Someone who knows that love isn't about being exciting, it's about being there. Every damn day. Claire walked away thinking she could do better. And maybe she will. But so did I. And I already have.